is we need to relax about the first round of the 12-team college football playoffs. I understand, everybody. It was boring, okay? I wasn't very excited about it either. We saw that the average margin of victory was almost 3 touchdowns this season. So that is not something to be very excited about in the first round of the coveted 12-team college football playoffs that we've already seen have a little bit of a ripple with the structure so far and the way that they do the seeding and the schedule, of course. But we have so many people griping about the 12 best teams actually being inside this college football playoff. And look, I wanted to see more competition out of Tennessee against Ohio State. I wanted to see more competition out of SMU against Penn State. I wanted all of that, just like you guys did. But let's take it into perspective for a second. The average margin of victory was only 1.4 points higher than the 10 years of the 4-year CFP. So for the last decade, 17.9 points was the average margin of victory in the first round, in the round of 4, of course, when there was the 4-team college football playoffs. This year, it was 19.3. So it's not that big of a difference. Are we really sitting here saying that not even a field goal spread, albeit there were some big blowouts this weekend, is really the big thing that we're complaining about? I still think they got the 12 best correct outside of possibly the bubble teams. You can possibly give or take there. I kind of thought that maybe a team like Ole Miss or South Carolina, not Alabama or Miami, maybe should have made that bid in there. But the CFP told us that it was going to work this way. The committee came out, albeit I don't care for a committee specifically. They came out and said that it was going to be this way. It just took a second for all of us to learn about it, to actually understand how it was going to be seeded, to understand how these these first 4 buys work in the first round, how the 12 seed works, how the home playoff games work, how they don't reseed. It took a minute for all of us to understand that. And it was a boring weekend. Again, I'm with you guys on that. There was one lead change all weekend, and that was in the Clemson-Texas game. I don't even have it on the slate to go over each game individually because everybody got drubbed. Of course, I'll pull it up for a second and give you some small takeaways, maybe 60 seconds of, in total from each game. But I feel like the burning question now is people are being forced to pick a side on the 12-team college football playoff. Again, the first round is in the books. So are you more on the side of they got the 12 teams wrong? Again, the average margin of victory, 19.3 points, just under 3 touchdowns. And let's just be real, none of these games were competitive. I mean, maybe Clemson versus Texas for a quarter when there was a lead change, but Texas was up 2 scores comfortably, mostly all game, and every home team rolled comfortably. I mean, Texas was a huge favorite. I thought that Vegas was crazy for saying that, and they rolled. SMU just absolutely outmatched by Penn State. I mean, Penn State was on Kevin Jennings' ass every single snap. He gifted Penn State 14 points in Happy Valley in a white-off game in Penn State's first ever home playoff game. You thought that was going to go well? That was a tall task for SMU. Of course, we just discussed what happened with Texas and Clemson. Texas just played bigger. They played better. They were faster. They had better play calls. And it was just really a dragging of them. Maybe I should have put this game on the slate to actually give some takeaways from it, but the entire weekend was a slouch. And we knew that. Cade Klubnik did the best that he could to play Superman in the game against Texas, but Texas still came out on top. Then, of course, we have Notre Dame and Indiana. Indiana's biggest story is nobody can run the ball on them. Jeremiah Love said, hold my beer. Plenty of rushing yards for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to be able to move on and play my Georgia Bulldogs. And Notre Dame, rightfully so, they actually look like they could beat Georgia. Still pulling for my dogs. I don't think the Fighting Irish will beat the Bulldogs. But Notre Dame's got a good case. They have a very good case. And then you have Tennessee and Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State goes out, wins by 25 points, and Tennessee's just outmatched on every aspect. I didn't expect Nico to be able to do much. I was surprised that Dylan Sampson didn't get his share of the load and actually be able to provide some production. But Ohio State, as we predicted possibly in the preseason, they are the best defense in college football. They're number 1 in points, number 1 in yards. They have a $20 million NIL roster. They were in Ohio, the whole Neal North, 65, 70% of tickets sold to the Tennessee Volunteers fans. Stop selling tickets to Vols fans. That's all they did was buy tickets because Tennessee really didn't show up. Ohio State just absolutely outclassed them. Ryan Day outclassed Josh Heupel. James Franklin outclassed, Rhett Lashley for SMU. Just absolutely outclassed them. Sark let Dabo have it. I mean, it was just an absolute outmatch on all aspects throughout the entire weekend. So the first side, are you on the side of they got the 12 teams wrong? It was boring, big margin of victory. Alabama, Ole Miss, Miami, South Carolina, whoever you think should have made it. Or did they get it right? Which is where I'm at. I do think they got it right. Again, they told us it was going to work this way. Just because the first round was all blowouts doesn't mean that they got it wrong. We saw 4 teams greatly outmatched by other teams in the first ever, mind you, home playoff games in the most electric season of college football we've ever seen, in the highest stakes college football season we've ever seen, with everything to play for. Because let me ask you this question. Take your specific 12 teams. I don't care if you're possibly embarrassed about the 12 teams that you thought were the 12 best in the nation. Megan, what's up, man? Good to see you. Brian, Merry Christmas to you, my friend. Let's take your 12 teams that you wanted to possibly make it in the CFP. If we still got these same results, did the committee still get it wrong? Are you still seeing the same sentiment of they got the 12 teams wrong? Or would you be on the side of would you be on the side of B, which is they got it right? We just saw 4 teams greatly outmatched on the road. It was a tall task. Every home team was a favorite. Every home team won. No double-digit underdog has ever won in the CFP, and that was not a thing that was broken this weekend. And would you witness what we just did this weekend? We cannot sit here and overreact and take the air out of the room because we've had matchups like Georgia beating TCU in the national championship 65-7 because you feel like TCU shouldn't have got in. Do I think there's a weird line to draw between the best and the most deserving? Absolutely. And I'll just throw it out there. I think the CFP committee is absolutely unnecessary. Take it back to the BCS where it was a computer system, or mimic the NFL system. Somehow put divisions in. You can still value your conference championship game. If you have to, limit it down on conferences, realign conferences, whatever. You have the power in your hands. There's more than enough money in this sport to move this playoff system around. You just did it. You just tripled the field. So you can mimic the NFL system. Take human error, a board of humans out of it to determine who the best teams in college football are, because bias will always exist that way. Bias will always exist if we put the fate of 12 teams in another human's hands. I feel like I just saw my mic going red. Are we good? Yeah, we're good. Exactly. They got it right. People are going to lose. I mean, a loss is a loss. Just because 4 teams got absolutely drugged this weekend doesn't mean that the committee got it wrong. Because again, if your 12 teams got in and this result still happened, they still get it wrong? If it's still a 14 to a 21-point margin of victory for all 4 home teams, do they still get it wrong? No. We have to stop overreacting for this. They're going to fix it. The 12 bet teams got in. They told us the rules. They explained it on every selection show, and it's online for us to digest. So when you take every bit of that into context, that's why we need to relax about the first round of the 12-team CFP. We have an amazing semifinal coming up. We have a great quarterfinals coming up. It's going to be absolutely great. We got the Sugar Bowl. We got the Rose Bowl. Plenty of matchups. We'll be previewing that in the shows coming up, episodes 86, 87, and on. But y'all get in the chat, get in the comments. Let me know what you're feeling about the first weekend of the first ever 12-team college football playoffs. I say take it back to the BCS or mimic the NFL system. I don't think a board of humans for a college football playoff committee is necessary. Just make it cut and dry. Put the tiebreakers into the rules and let the rest of it ride.